Hey, John here at the Grape & Granary, and today I'm going to do a little demonstration of the use of a soda keg system. I'll give you some ideas of different things that you can do with them. I'll go over some of the basics, things like the difference between a ball lock keg and a pin lock keg, and I'll do a demonstration of actually racking a beer into a soda keg and then force carbonating it. So we tend to find that probably the biggest pain for most home brewers is actually bottling. So kegging really takes a lot of the work out of the process. It really reduces the bottleneck, if you will. So let's talk a little bit first of all about the difference between a pin lock keg and a ball lock keg. This here is your typical ball lock or pin lock keg, and the reason why it's called a pin lock keg is because there are little pins that hold the little disconnects onto the keg. These are traditionally Coke kegs. So what you'll see in the disconnects that allow you to put the gas in and take the liquid out is a couple of little slots that this attaches to. So you would take this, press it down, and twist so that the pin locks itself in. So that's your typical pin lock keg. Ball lock keg doesn't look like that. There's no pins on the little poppet valves here, as you can see. And the disconnects look a little bit different. There are no slots here to accommodate any pins. With these type disconnects, or ball lock disconnects, what we're going to do is just lift up on the little skirt and then press down, and then it will snap into place like that. When you want to remove it, you lift up on the little lip and pull it out. Here's a close-up of the difference between a pin lock disconnect. You can see the slots, and a ball lock disconnect, but you can see there are no slots. I also want to mention the difference between a liquid disconnect and a gas disconnect. Okay? Liquid is where, of course, your beer comes out. Liquid, it's always going to be darker in color. So this black disconnect here would be for your liquid side. And on a pin lock keg, again, we've got a black skirt on the bottom of this disconnect. That's going to be your liquid side. For your gas side, where your gas goes into your soda keg, you're going to find it's gray. So for a ball lock disconnect, it's completely gray. And for a pin lock disconnect, again, we have gray. So again, gray is for gas, dark black is for liquid. And that matters because on your soda keg, you've got one gas inlet and one liquid out. Okay, so you want to put the proper disconnect on the proper poppet valve. This would be liquid coming out like this, and this would be gas going in like this. Okay, one more thing I wanted to mention too, and that's the difference between a barbed disconnect and a threaded disconnect. All right, these are both gas disconnects. So this puts gas into a ball lock keg. No holes for skirt in the skirt. This is a gas disconnect for a pin lock keg. Again, pin lock because it accommodates the little pins. All right. Now the difference between these two, again, is going to be this has a threaded connection here. This has a barbed connection. Now when it comes to attaching these two disconnects to a soda keg, I always recommend, at least for the gas side, of putting the gas into the soda keg, that you go with the threaded version of this disconnect. The reason is most gas line for beer is 5/16 inside diameter. Okay, the disconnects are made with a 1/4-inch barb. Now, if you try to slide your gas line over a 1/4-inch barb, you can see here, we'll get a tight shot of this. It's a very, very sloppy fit. All right, you put a 5/16 ID gas tube on a 1/4-inch barb, and it's a recipe for disaster. What's going to happen? You're going to try to put a hose clamp on there. It's never going to be tight enough, and you're going to end up losing all your gas. So what we recommend doing is, at least on the gas side, doesn't really matter on the liquid, get the threaded disconnect. All right, and to that you attach a 5/16 swivel nut. This threads right onto our disconnect, and it increases the size of the barb up to 5/16. These also come in a 1/4-inch size as well, but yeah, 1/4-inch. So this is 5/16 here. Now you can see we've got our 5/16 gas line. When we slide this over, we have a much tighter fit. And when we put a hose clamp on that, you're not going to have a leak. So again, we recommend the threaded disconnect for the gas side of your CO2 system. For the liquid side, for dispensing the beer, you can go ahead and stick with your 1/4-inch barb that comes on a disconnect if you like, because we're using a 3/16 ID liquid tube, and when you push that over a 1/4-inch barb, you have a nice tight fit. You're not going to have any leaking there. All right. All right, in our most expensive or inexpensive CO2 setup, what you're going to get is you're going to get a CO2 cylinder like this. It's brand new. It's either going to be steel or aluminum. You're going to get a double gauge regulator, one that we've used for a number of years that we like a lot. What I like about it is it has this large dial here for adjusting your CO2 pressure. You don't have to run and find a screwdriver to turn in a small nut to adjust it, so it's very easy to adjust. You're going to get a reconditioned or a brand new soda keg, either pin lock or ball lock, depending on what you choose. Right now, pin locks are the most economical. They're reconditioned and we guarantee them for a year. You're also going to get a set of disconnects that allow you to take the liquid out of your keg and put the gas in to dispense. And these are all going to have the threaded connections like I described earlier with the swivel nuts, so you're going to get a nice tight fit. Anytime you need to disconnect this, it's a very easy disconnection. You just unthread it. You don't have to worry about hose clamps and that sort of thing. So it costs a little bit more, but I think it's worth it on both sides, gas and liquid. And then you're also going to get a picnic faucet like this for dispensing. Probably the biggest downside to a CO2 system like this is you need to have a spare refrigerator of some size to put your kegs into for dispensing, because if you don't, you're going to be serving the beer at room temperature or cellar temperature, and it'll be hard to get the beer to carbonate, force carbonate at warm temperature too. So the soda kegs are also available in the 3-gallon size as well, which makes them a lot more portable. You can also fit them into a smaller size refrigerator, but essentially they're the same, they're just smaller in size. So let me go ahead and I'll do a little demonstration. I'm going to show you how to force carbonate a beer. This is the quickest way for your turnaround on your beer. You can basically be carbonating the beer and dispensing it within 2 days. So I'll show you how to do that. Before I get into that demonstration, I want to mention one more thing too, and that is if you don't want to do artificial carbonation, if you want to do a traditional cask conditioning, you can treat a soda keg like this just like you would treat one big bottle of beer. So instead of having to sanitize 50 different containers and then fill them, you're only sanitizing one container and then you're filling it with beer, and then you could add a half a cup of corn sugar to that, seal it up with the lid, let it sit at room temperature for about 1 to 2 weeks, and then it will carbonate just like a big bottle of beer, and then you can go ahead and dispense it. The big difference between this and, say, carbonating 50 bottles, 12-ounce bottles of beer is you only want a half a cup of corn sugar with this, whereas if you're priming or carbonating 50 12-ounce beer bottles, you're going to use 3/4 of a cup of corn sugar. So let's go ahead with the demonstration, and I'll show you how to force carbonate and really turn a beer around really quick. Okay, so I've got my batch of beer that's ready to go into the keg. It's been through primary and secondary fermentation. It's nice and clear now. We're going to siphon it off of any sediment here into our soda keg, and once we get it in there, we'll seal the keg up. Okay, since I've gone ahead now and racked the beer from the secondary fermenter into our soda keg, we can go ahead and attach our lid. So the way these things work, I don't know if you can get a little bit close up on this. Slide the lid inside like that. We'll turn it so that it lines up. You want to have a little lip on the outside there. Pull up and press down, and that's pretty much it. And we want to go ahead and apply about 5 pounds of pressure to our CO2 product tank to seal the lid. All right. So we'll attach our disconnect. We'll turn our gas on. Make sure that the tank is turned on all the way. We'll flip on the red line in, and then we'll go ahead and turn this clockwise until we bring it up to 5 pounds. One more thing I wanted to show you also is if you need to change out your CO2 cylinder, this gasket creates a good seal between the regulator and the CO2 tank. So let me just go ahead and thread this on, tighten it down, and you'll be ready to go. Once we get some pressure into the soda keg, you're going to want to press down with a screwdriver or some other device to release some of the pressure in the headspace. Now, if you have a cylinder that is a Coke keg, chances are it's not going to have a pressure release valve on the lid. You can purchase them separately. These typically come with your ball lock type kegs, where it'll have a little pressure release valve built right into the ring. With the Coke keg, it's generally not the case, so you'll need to disconnect your gas line. And then what you can do is press down with a screwdriver to let that excess pressure out. And you want to do this a couple of times, and the reason you want to do this is to kind of bleed any of the headspace of oxygen. We'll blow out the oxygen out of the headspace, fill it with carbon dioxide. So just a couple times here, we're going to go ahead and just release the pressure. And that also shows us that we've got a good seal on our lid as well. You can also hear the regulator kick on each time that we apply more pressure. The next step then is going to be to go ahead and take our sealed keg of beer. We're going to put this in the refrigerator and we're going to let it sit overnight, because a beer that is cold is going to receive the gas much more easily. We'll be able to dissolve the CO2 gas into the beer that's chilled than a beer that's warm. So we want to chill the beer down overnight, probably to like 40 degrees or so, and then from there we'll take it and force carbonate it. Alright, now that we've chilled the beer down to around 40 degrees or so, it's time to go ahead and force carbonate the beer. So what we want to do is attach our gas line again, like we had previously. We're going to set our regulator on about 25 psi. So I'm going to grab a hold of the dial, I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, and you'll see here the gauge starting to rise. And we're going to want to keep turning this knob until we reach about 25 psi. Now, the temperature you set your gauge at is going to depend on the temperature of your beer. The warmer the beer is, the higher you're going to have to set your regulator. The colder the beer, the lower you can set your regulator to get the same amount of carbonation. Now that we've turned our regulator up to about 25, I'm going to grab a hold of the soda keg like this, and I'm going to start to rock it back and forth. And what you'll be able to hear as I do this is the regulator will kick on, and the gas will be dissolved into the beer. So we'll shake it like this, probably for about 60 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds, and we'll just listen for the regulator to run. Alright, now that we have forced carbonated the beer, we're going to disconnect our gas line. We're going to leave the 30 or 25 pounds of pressure on this canister overnight, throw it back in the fridge. The next day, the beer will be carbonated. We'll go ahead and bleed off any excess pressure from our keg again by pushing down with a screwdriver to let some of the excess pressure out. Once we get that pressure down there around 5 or 10 psi, we'll reset our regulator at 5 to 10, reattach it, and we go ahead and start drinking the beer. That's pretty much it. If you have any problems, you have any questions about this process or any other products that we sell, please don't hesitate. Give us a call. My name is John at the Great Granary. You can find us on the internet at www.thegrape.net, and thanks for watching.